Welcome everybody. We're so glad that you're here. And my name is Stacy Hoffman. I'm the Executive Director of Living Jazz. And first, we'd love to know where all you guys are hailing from. So feel free to put your name and where you live in the chat. It's really fun to see where everybody is coming in from. We are an Oakland-based jazz music organization. For those of you who are not familiar with Living Jazz, our mission is to transform lives through music. And for the past 37 years, we've been working steadily to design and produce jazz education and performance programs for elementary age children through seniors. Allison, later on, and I are going to be sharing some information with all of you about a brand new initiative we're launching called the Living Jazz Resilience Project that we really believe will help our community deal with so many of the issues that we've all been coping with over this past crazy year. So at the end of our event today, please stay on, and we're going to tell you all about this because we really think everybody would love to find out about it. The Call and Response series was created during the pandemic as a way to bring meaningful conversations between very well-known jazz artists directly to all of you. The conversations touch on a range of very relevant topics, such as the changing role of the arts since COVID, social justice, creativity and collaboration, spirituality, or mental health. And today, we're definitely honored as we listen to the members of Artemis talk about weaving the collaborative tapestry. We're going to learn about how this incredible powerhouse group works collaboratively and creatively, which leads to some of the most amazing musical moments. We have about an hour of conversation that you'll all get to listen to, and afterwards Allison is going to lead us through a Q&A. So if you have any questions for Artemis, please feel to leave them in the chat, and our moderators will get to them at the end of the evening. Of course, you can also put questions in the chat as the conversation unfolds. So now I would like to welcome Allison Miller. Allison is a drummer, composer, and educator. She's based out of New York. She's also the artistic director for Jazz Camp West and the Living Jazz Program Associate. In addition to Artemis, she leads Boom Tick Boom and collaborates with such greats as Toshi Reagan, Annie DeFranco, Natalie Merchant, Brandy Carlisle, Dr. Lonnie Smith, and Late Night with Seth Meyers, just to name a few. So without further ado, let's welcome Allison Miller.
Thanks, Stacy. Hi, everybody. I'm going to change the view so I don't see my face so much. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited for tonight, for this discussion. And, you know, this is very personal for me, even though I'm the moderator, but I'm also in the band of Artemis. And this is kind of like an excuse to have a little dressing room hang with some of my favorite people. So I'm very excited for this conversation. I'm going to introduce each member and kind of give a little shout out to them as I introduce them. I'm going to start with the fabulous Noriko Ueda. And I just have to say, after hearing the opening number, Renee's Big Top, which is on our first record, Noriko, I miss playing with you so much. Your hump is so swinging, and I'm just like, I heard that and I was like, I gotta introduce Noriko first because I miss that beat of yours. And that's when I think about touring, like the musical moments, that's one of the first things I think of is like how good it feels to play in the rhythm section with you. So please welcome everybody, the great bassist Noriko Ueda.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna clap. I'm clapping.
And with tears. I feel the same. Really, I miss playing with you. Yeah, big time. And we are near, and we have to find a way to somehow.
I know. Well, we should meet in the park and play.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, okay.
Why not? Okay.
JJ.
And then the incredible musical director and pianist of this band, Renee Rosnes. And You know, Renee to me, when I first moved to New York, I moved to New York in 1996. And when I moved to New York, I immediately heard about Renee Rosnes. I didn't know about her before. And she was she was and is such a shero of mine. And I remember when I used to go see her at the Vanguard, I was always too nervous to introduce myself and say hi. So I have to say, when she called me a few years in, I think it was 2017, to meet everybody out on the road and tour with Artemis and eventually become a member of Artemis. I couldn't have been more thrilled and nervous at the same time. So please welcome the incredible Renee Rosnes on piano.
Thank you so much, Allison. And it's been so wonderful to play with you. And it took way too long for us to get together.
I know. Okay, next down, I see the incredible person and musician and vocalist, Cécile McLorin Salvant. And when Cécile and when I remember the first time I met Cécile was actually, we all went, I think it was me and Cécile and Ingrid and someone else. Was it Melissa? We all went to dinner. I had just flown into to Rotterdam. Was it three of us? Okay.
Yeah.
We went and had noodles.
Yeah.
Noodles. And I was pretty sleep deprived, and I hadn't done my first gig with the band yet. This was the day before. And I just immediately hit it off with Cécile, which I think most people do because she's such a wonderful, kind, open-hearted, humble person. So please welcome the incredible Cécile McLorin Salvant.
Thank you.
Okay, and then next down we have Ingrid Jensen, who is another person that I was always too nervous to talk to. And I think I first met Ingrid at International Association of Jazz Educators, IAJE convention back in the day. I was in college or high school, and I went to see the band Diva at the convention, and I kind of got the nerve up to go and introduce myself to Ingrid. She probably doesn't remember, but I was very nervous. And she has since become one of my dear like family friend, and our families hang out, and she's been to Jazz Camp West, blessed us with her presence last year, or I guess 2 years ago now. And Ingrid is just an incredible human being, so humble, such a wonderful musician, and such a supporter of all young musicians. So please welcome Ingrid Jensen.
Thank you, Allie. Honored to be here. Love any chance we have to bring us all together.
Yes. And last but definitely not least, where is she? Oh, there she is. I have the gallery view here. Anat Cohen. And Anat, first of all, clarinet is I think my favorite instrument, and she plays the hell out of it, and plays the hell out of all music. And she and I first met, I think, at the Kennedy Center back in Washington, D.C. I think we did a show together a long time ago. And then we went way too many years without playing. So I just think that Anat is one of the most positive, kind-hearted, forward-thinking people I know. And she's just sets such a wonderful example, and always kind of brings brings positivity to the room. So please welcome Anat Cohen. Where'd she go? There she is.
Thank you, Allie. Great to be here with you all.
Yeah. Love you. Anat's joining us from Brazil, correct?
Correcto.
Which you've been there the entire year, I think.
Yeah, it just happened. As things started to close down, I just grabbed all the microphones I could and and my clarinet and computer, and I came down to Rio de Janeiro, and I did not know that a year later I would still be here. But
yeah,
I'm not complaining about anything.
Right. Last time, I remember we were about 3 or 4 months in when we did something on Zoom, and you had said that you had just for the first time left the apartment. Have you been leaving the apartment more now?
Not that much. not that much. Yeah, I probably should leave more, but I don't really go anywhere. No. Yeah, going back to life is gonna be very strange, as I got used to be very domesticated here, and
Yeah.
my routine, a routine which especially with things that I never could never do before, which is like cooking and eating, choosing every meal and shopping. It's like it's a big difference from life on the road. I think for all of us, nutrition wise, we all had to make. I think for the better, I would say. Then it's much
Yeah.
better than JFK's food.
Yeah, it's funny. I hadn't thought about like we actually choose what we want to eat now because so many times touring musicians we end up getting what they offer at the venue, or you have a few options or something. But that's an interesting point. And I actually never realized how much I was into schedule and routine either until this whole scene. It's crazy. So I mean, I want to keep this. I figure once we'll just get the flow going, and I want us to all just feel like we can talk and hang out. But I am going to ask a couple questions just to start it off. One of my first questions, the theme for this is about collaboration and collectivity and creating music together. But I guess one of my first questions is, and anybody can answer this, when we are able to play a show together again, or when we are able to tour again as a band, what do you look forward to? Or like, what's the first thing you think of when you think of Artemis and hitting the road together? Does anybody want to answer that?
Laughing a little too hard, and won't go into details, but making sure that I went to the bathroom before I laughed. Really laughed. Seriously, with this band, it's dangerous.
Please do go into details, Ingrid.
There's just too many memories of the meltdowns where I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't just drink a big bottle of water. That's all I'll say. Because this band makes me laugh too hard. And actually, no, but seriously, back to the hump thing that you're talking about, and this is all sounding so dirty, but the hookup between Allison and Noriko and Renee that night was that feeling is what I'm looking forward to, is that feeling when we all came together on stage at the North Sea, and it was like, oh, this is, I used to ride horses, and you'd ride a horse that was like really bumpy and not that fun, but you're still like riding the horse, and it's cool, and you're like seeing the world and nature, and it's great. You're on a horse, but it's not fun as when there's things that could be better. And then when you ride a horse that you gel, your energy gels with, and then you just go move, you can go any tempo, any slow, fast, they can just stand and stare at a tree if they want. And it feels great. And that's kind of my description of that band, that night with that band. And but the laughter, I think, is part of that joy of celebrating being in a good vibe, being in a good room of energy.
Yeah, I think it's my mute. Am I unmuted?
You're on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the warmth of the band on and off the stage. I mean, when you're making music with people that you like, or people that you love, people that you have a connection with, I think when you play music together, that only gets stronger. And especially if there's that kind of open flow between you as people, that translates to the music too. So you have a feeling of joy, and you have a feeling of security in the way that we can all take chances with what we're doing, and we know we're going to land on our feet because we all got each other's backs. And so that's an important part of music making, where you, as Wayne Shorter kind of says, you don't have a net where you can really just let loose and play your heart. And I really feel like that. And I especially felt like that even more so when the band got into the studio to record, because I think we've been doing so many gigs where, maybe the sound isn't the greatest, or it's hard to hear certain, the sound issues. on a stage. And when we got into the studio, and I could hear everybody so clearly, and I could hear the blend that we were making, not microphones, but all of us were making, and to be able to back such a magnificent voice that as Cécile's voice with the band, and have it all be in balance. It was just a rush, it just made me feel great. And so I just love playing with all of you, and I just feel that there's so much more to do. We're just scratching the surface right now. Musically.
Yeah. We are just scratching the surface, I think. Renee, you mentioned trust and kind of playing with people you really like. Has that been, I definitely feel the trust in this band. And I think that's for me, the key to a collaborative project, like collectivity and collaboration. And for all of my bands, that's always what I've gone for, is this kind of long-term development of trust, and that's when I feel like the most powerful musical dialogue can happen, or like the most interesting. Do you feel that way? Have you felt that way in all of your projects throughout your years, and kind of your other collaborations besides Artemis, like going for collaborations where you really like the people you're playing with and you trust them?
I think mostly I would say 90%, yes. Sometimes you're put in a situation where you may not know somebody so well, and so that has to develop. But I would say yes. And, it's interesting. I spent many years playing with the great Bay Area vibraphonist, Bobby Hutcherson, who was just light of the world, just such an amazing player, and just, full of joy on and off the bandstand. And he said something once that stuck with me, which was, he said, I don't care how great somebody plays. If they're not nice, I don't want to be traveling with them. I don't want to play with them if they're not, if they're not nice people. And that may sound a little, black and white, but I think there's some, wisdom in there. I think all of us know that, when you're playing with people who are giving people, you feel it in the music.
Yeah.
You play your spirit in many ways.
And that's the perks of being a band leader, that you get to choose, right? Because I'm the same. I don't want to play with people that are not nice people. And whenever people ask about when you give advice for young people, it's like, you got to be cool. You got to be cool, because you spend 1 hour on the bandstand, and then 23 hours of the day, you're just hanging, sitting at airports, and if you're not cool, man, people are not going to want to be around you. So the music is super important, but the personality is as important.
I totally agree with that.
What'd you say, Noriko?
I really, totally agree with it. And I think I'm most happy thing about, I played with, many bands or many people for really long period. And I really appreciate that. So to knowing the people, and to love the whole band, members, and to create like a trust each other. And that's, I think, key of like to enjoy playing music, and also show that part of the musicianship to the audience.
Yeah. Cécile, what about you with as a vocalist, just kind of developing your bands over the years? It seems like you've really held on to your musical relationships for long periods of time. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it does come down to that idea of trust. I have a lot of trouble opening up creatively if I don't know someone, or even trying new stuff. I mean, even though it is said that improvisation is a big part of this music, that's not, I'm not good at improvising with people I don't know. I'm not good at being spontaneous with people that I don't know. So there's always, I mean, even with this band, there was an initial like nervousness when we first came together. I was scared. I didn't know. I was, and then now that we've played together so much, we did a tour, we did a few gigs, we know each other. I just feel so much more comfortable, and I do get attached. I get very attached to, situations where it just feels like communal. It feels like a family. No new friends for me, no new friends, or rarely, like it's like always a big deal. If I have to go into a new rehearsal with a new band, I can already feel the jitters. I don't thrive in those situations. I don't think. I mean, it's good. It pushes me, but and going back to the point of like working with people who are nice. I mean, I have heard that sometimes, like, some people love conflict, like they like the energy of being angry for the gig, and they like, feeling like they're in a conflictual relationship with the people on the bandstand, and it brings out this kind of violent, like almost like raw aspect to the music. But for me, it just totally drains me. I'm tired. I'm already on the road. But at this point now that we're in the middle of COVID, I'm like, I'll take whatever. I'll even go with like some really horrible, mean, like get in a fight on the band. So like, I miss that. I even miss that. Like, honestly, I mean, I will curse myself later for saying that. But and like the drama of, yeah.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll say, the drama of being on tour itself is like, even with the most relaxed group of people like Artemis, like inherently there's the drama. Just knowing that you're going to the airport, you're going to take the stuff out of the bag. They're going to ask you, do you want clear? No, I don't want clear. It's just so dramatic already being on tour. So adding conflict, like interpersonal conflict, is not my jam. I try to do my best to avoid it, for sure.
We bought over COVID. I highly recommend anybody that needs to have that like punching experience. We bought one of those blow up, put water in the bottom of it and you blow it up. It's a punching bag. It's been the best thing ever. It's like, too much screen time, kid. Get off the screen time. She gets up and punches it, and we all start laughing. And we bought one for her friend, and he was like, the mom called me. She goes, "This is the happiest he's ever been." I was like, I guess we all just hit something right now.
Yeah,
it's true.
Why Ali plays the drums.
That's right. I got to play this morning. It felt amazing. I got to play duo. I felt very lucky. Yeah. Actually, I think Sullivan was coming into the studio after me. The same. Sullivan and Rufus, I think, were coming in right after me. Me and Carmen played duo. Yeah. Ooh, it felt good. Okay, I'm going to move it along here, and this doesn't have to do with the weaving the collaborative tapestry, but I was thinking about things that I don't know about you guys. And, we've all hung out so much, but I was thinking about, I know we've talked about our inspirations, musical inspirations, and who we listen to and who we've checked out and what we love and stuff. But I want to see if anybody would like to answer this question about, what music moves you, like really moves you deeply, and especially during this last year. Have you had any musical discoveries of people you maybe didn't know about before that actually really moves you? The shiver test, I like to say. I'll just throw it out there. One of my students actually turned me on to the band Big Thief, which I didn't know. And Adrienne Lenker, this incredible singer, and she moves me. Her voice moves me like deeply, and so that's one singer that I've gotten really into lately. And then I'm really into Georgia Ann Muldrow's latest record, "Mama You Can Bet," which is an incredible, innovative groundbreaking album. So those are like my two records right now that are really moving me. And so does anybody else want to throw anything in the pot? What?
That was the last name of Georgia? Georgia who?
Georgia Ann Muldrow. I mean, all of her records are incredible, but this,
Oh, I'm
yeah,
gonna just jump in and say that I just discovered her during the pandemic, and I lost it. She is incredible. This last album, Mama You Can Bet, is astounding. She is it. She's it. Oh my God. She's an incredible singer, but she's beyond that. She's like amazing producer, super unique vision, unique sound. It's warm, it's enveloping. It's so connected to like, I mean, to me, it's connected to Sun Ra, and it's connected to Alice Coltrane, and it's connected to hip hop. And it's just like, I felt like my head was being pressed hard when I, like in the best way, when I heard her. I'm gonna just copy your choice, Allison. I'm sorry I jumped in.
Yeah, no, she came up under Alice Coltrane. You know, the kind of, this project is under her kind of other name. It's Giotti, and that was the name that Alice Coltrane gave her. So she yeah. Oof, she's an incredible, like, producer, instrumentalist, composer, vocalist.
I'm gonna check that out. That's great.
Anybody else have anything that's been moving them lately?
I found myself going back and, just looking for really quiet music for many times, just like something really calming and not to get any edge. And I found myself listening a lot to Julie London, which is kind of like,
Hey.
and just listening again and again to her first. It's just so, I don't know, there's something like so. And then I watched the movie, about her, and I don't know, it just, I was moved. It kept moving me, accompanying me.
Love it. Anybody else?
Okay, I was like listening a bunch of like classical music, and definitely it really comfort me, and Schubert, I don't know the singers' names, but actually like really just YouTube, and I was just watching all Schubert stuff, and it really moved me, and Lindenbaum, and even I can't remember the old titles, but just the beauty of all, the chord changes, whatever, and I just love it. And Marianne Anderson also, the voice of the like a low voice, Marianne Anderson,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
some stuff is just really touches me.
That's my go-to. The Marian Anderson, and she sang at the White House. That's my go-to record for Goosebumps. But having a child, that goes to TikTok, and she's not on TikTok. She has 3 followers, but she's creating all these incredible videos. She has much of Hamilton memorized, so I'm moved by that. I think that's amazing that a 9-year-old just memorized the lyrics of something like that. And then she just hips me to the rest of the recent one, Heather Conan Gray. I would never have known of this person, but these are things she'll say to pull up at night when it's time to go to bed. And I'm like, wow, I would have not known that song. Christian Douglas. Oh, that's the new Becca Stevens friend. And on and on. Zanzibar. My daughter's like, Zanzibar? Let's listen to Zanzibar. And then start singing the Freddie Hubbard solo at the end. I'm like, I'm moved. This is good. I really wanted to hate the TikTok thing, but it's actually, it's exposing me to music that she is learning. And some of it is from a long time ago. So it's really a weird time to answer that question, because I don't really have time to listen to much on my own. The things that are moving me the most are actually the compositions my students play, and knowing that they are taking care of their business now with them and licensing the music and taking responsibility for their publishing. That really moves me, especially if they're really good tunes. If it's not like, it's like, okay, keep writing, but some of them are actually coming up with tunes. I'm just like, wow, this is exciting.
Yeah.
Really exciting.
I know my students have been really inspiring me too. I've been asking them to, like, I teach this class called Art of Solo Performance, which is very appropriate for this time. But I've gotten to the point now where, you know, the Zoom fatigue is really setting in, and so I kind of usually the second class I ask everybody to, we do show and tell, and I ask everybody to bring in something that inspires them, and that's how I got turned on to Big Thief, and they just people are bringing in such interesting stuff, poetry, fiction, nonfiction, and then a lot of them, a lot of my students have been making art like solo pieces with collaboration. You know, like one kid, he was like a, I guess he was a competitive like game, like video game, super something brothers video game guy in high school, and he took
Super
one of his,
Mario.
okay, Super Mario, he took one of his competition recordings, like he had an actual like recording of his competition game that he won, and he completely orchestrated this incredible drum solo over this video. Like they've been doing really interesting things, and that's been very inspiring. Okay, now to our music and this the collaboration. Renee, I've got a question for you.
All right.
So when we decided to make a record, and you asked everybody to bring in some music, write some music, arrange some music, how did you, like, were you a little nervous that we wouldn't have the right material for an actual entire album?
Yes.
I have always wondered the answer to that question.
I mean, what it's like, it's true, because go
it
ahead.
comes back to the issue of trust, right? So I know, you know, Noriko and I got together to play a couple of pieces, and I had a couple of things in mind, and I just felt like once we got together and played, if I didn't feel that there was a good balance, that I would have either adjusted my own composition or encouraged other people to bring in other options. But I felt that once we got together and you know, ran through different things, I felt like we could make it all work, and it did. I think it worked beautifully. I know Anat felt that you know, probably nobody's going to bring in a ballad, so she wrote a beautiful ballad, and of course Cécile's songs really, you know, really broadened the whole scope of the album. And you know, and your piece especially was just you know, full of energy, and Ingrid's and Noriko, everybody's, Melissa's piece, everybody's piece really spoke of you know, they brought their own to it, their own personalities to it, and I think it really gelled well together. And also, you know, when we perform, we do other material as well, and so I also knew that if we needed to, we could bring in one of those other pieces that we do live, that, you know, as well. But and I think the sequencing is always very important in an album too, because an album with the same, you know, 9, 10 tunes, whatever, you can make 4 different albums out of the same 10 songs, and the album has a different feel to it depending on what you start with and how you sequence each piece, because the mood flows from one to the next. And of course, I guess I'm also thinking of, you know, back in the day when you had a vinyl album and you put it on, and you had, you know, those records are much shorter, you know, 45 minutes, a lot of our classic, the great albums that we listen to. And then you turned it over as well, so you had 3 tunes and 3 tunes. But now it's kind of like, you know, anybody can listen to any one piece on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, so you don't necessarily have the same kind of flow that that you would if you were putting on the whole album. But anyway, I did give it a lot of thought, and I'm pretty happy with what we came up with. So
yeah, I mean,
you are too.
I mean, I think it's incredible how you sequenced it, because I wouldn't have wanted that job. You know, I mean, I think the music does, you know, it's all related. It's all relatable with each other because it's us, you know, it's our band sound. I actually think the record solidified our band sound, you know, after we made that, because we all wrote for the the band and arranged for the band, and then we came together and really kind of landed and found our sound there. But I just think it's incredible how you sequenced it. Really, you really made it work. It was amazing. I was really excited to write for the front line, because I had never, I think I've said this before. I don't know which Zoom it was, but just this getting a chance to write for Anat, Ingrid, and Melissa, who are all so good at what they do. And you have your own each of you have your own voice, and you're also so professional and can basically read anything and play so in tune and blend and do all those things that it's like a dream as a composer to be able to write for. So for me, I felt like it was the first chance I got to really write for that kind of level. Not that my bands have a different kind of thing, plus I'm writing for, cornet, violin, and clarinet. And if you open up an orchestration book, they say, don't write for violin, don't put violin and cornet together. So it's always, there's always a particular rub in that band. But I like that. But in this band, it was so much fun to write for that front line. And Ingrid, I was wondering if you could maybe comment on what it was like to arrange for these three, you, Melissa, and Anat.
Well,
kinda...
yeah, you kind of put nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head. So, wow, my brain. I had my second COVID shot on Wednesday, and I have to say, like a really special human right now. This morning it was the rash. It's like I don't know what's going to happen in the next hour. It's like there's some sort of alien in me every few minutes evolving, hopefully in a positive way. But there's this crunch sound. You're told not to write. Don't write half steps. Don't avoid all these things in orchestration that will not go well, and they won't go well if you play with musicians that aren't listening and aren't deeply aware of harmony, and like not even just like, oh yeah, harmony, I checked it out. It's more like, yes, I want to know every possibility against this root, because I need to know all those notes in relation to everything, which is sort of the way I feel like it is playing with Anat and Melissa and this band as well, and the compers, the Renee comper and the listening from Noriko. It's all part of the big picture that whatever is written can be played unless it's super wrong. There were a couple things, we adjusted. Renee was right. She's like, I changed that note. She's right. It ruined the flow, right? The flow also, when you play with such great players, you can hear if things are sticking out obnoxiously at the wrong place at the wrong time, if that's the vibe of the line or the section. And in that case too, there's a lot of truth in honest players when they come together and land on a cluster. It's like there's a lot of truth there. You can't mess it up and gonna BS on it, or it's just gonna ruin the integrity of the piece. So that's something that makes it easy to write for that sound. And I love writing for sextet too. It's always been one of my favorite things to do, and then to add Cécile's voice on is my final dream, in unison with me. I don't know. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. It's great.
It's voices. I'm sorry. It's like human voices. It's not like, oh, there's a clarinet, there's a trumpet, there's some kind of saxophone. I think it's the B flat tenor. It's not. It's like there's these three voices, and I know that will sound like this. Maybe it'll sound better. Maybe it'll sound worse. I don't know. We'll know when we play it. But
yeah,
but there's no real limitation on the orchestration in that setting. Sorry.
And I think it also comes back to trust, trust and deep listening. I mean, everybody in this band is such an incredible listener, but also strong in their foundation, but also listening. Noriko, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, so I love the track. It's a magic, and I think it's a beautiful track, and then how Cécile sings is beautiful and everything, and also how Renee arranged the horns are like really gorgeous, and my favorite part is like one point like a horn. I think it's a clarinet, maybe clarinet and the trumpet, or it lands with like a minor second. That every time when it hits it, when it really hits my heart, and I wouldn't take a chance and to put that, the minor second, and but now I feel like, oh wow, that is a choice, and that's such a beautiful thing to, you know. And I want to, write like a new way to this band, and I think it's amazing to, whatever, as Alison said, whatever I write, you know, they make it sound good, and also we can adjust it, you know, and I think it's a beauty.
Yeah. You know, Ingrid, when you said your dream, you know, would be to add Cécile onto the, you know, onto the canvas. It made me think of, and I was just talking about this the other day with somebody. I don't know why it came up, but I feel like I can't remember anything anymore. But Cécile, do you remember when we played Newport and you sang? So Renee, Renee is, I think, you know, she's my hero in so many ways, but one of the ways, and she's especially my hero, is from her arranging skills. Renee's an incredible arranger, and she did this arrangement for Brilliant Thelonious Monk's Brilliant Corners that I think you originally arranged for SF Jazz Collective, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of like it's like one of our live go-tos is Brilliant Corners, and it's a difficult arrangement and so incredible. But I guess Renee asked Cécile if she wanted to sing with us. And this thing goes through so many metric modulations. And I don't know if had you ever sang that song before?
No comment. No comment.
Come on.
And nailed it. It was great.
It was amazing.
If anyone can do it, Cécile can do it.
Can I say that I'm probably not allowed to curse on this thing, but that shit right there was fucked up. Okay. Sorry. The arrangement is gorgeous. I listened to it about 20 times over and over to try to get on into it. And it was a fun challenge, but I don't think I did a good job. All right, that's all I'll say. But
you did a great job.
the arrangement is insane. I think that's one of my favorite arrangements that I've heard of yours, Renee. It's insanely good. It's so good. And that tune, I mean, obviously, but what you did to it, great. So yeah, it would be fun to try again. I'd be down to try it again.
We should do it.
Yeah. We have, you could hear that. You could hear that recording.
No.
Do you know about that, Cécile?
What did you say?
You can hear that recording, you know, there's that version, that concert was aired, I think.
Oh, but I don't listen to anything that.
No, I know. I'm just throwing it out there to the people.
You're throwing it out there for anyone who would like to.
Yeah, it's also on.
Go on, Renee. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's also on a SF Jazz Collective recording with the year we did the monk stuff. I forget what year it was, but that particular arrangement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because I remember you sent us the recording, and it was from that.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Eric Harland and Matt Penman.
Right. I just remember we went on stage, and I remember we just had a line check, right? That's all we get there at Newport, and I screamed. I literally screamed when we started the first note downbeat because I had this like massive sound come out of the monitor, and I couldn't. It hurt my ears so bad. But that was a fun show. It was a really fun show.
It was so fun.
That was the whole day was fun.
I think that's one of my favorites. I think Newport, and also what was that gig that we did where we were late or something? We were on the floor on the plane all day.
Our last gig in Norway.
Molde.
That was maybe my favorite gig with this band.
When Herbie was in the audience with his whole band.
And Herbie almost missed our boat because we were hanging so hard, the whole band. It was such a great hang backstage. We're like, we got to go get our boat at like 3 a.m. or something to get to our boat.
That's right. Because we had just seen them the day before in Nice, France, remember?
Exactly.
And then they went to Norway as well. I just
Yeah.
strawberries in the dressing room.
You what?
I remember the Norwegian strawberries. They had these strawberries that were so sweet in the dressing room.
Really? Well, I don't remember
I
about
remember
the
talking about
strawberries.
Clark Terry with Herbie Hancock. Marini remembers the strawberries. But I remember the strawberries too.
But isn't that what's really important? The food. I mean,
Yes.
I feel like this
is.
band, we revolve around food for sure.
The food is what anchors the memory of
That's
where
right.
we were.
That's true. I have a lot of pictures of us at dining tables, you know, in restaurants. One of my favorites is, I think we were in Portugal. No, maybe somewhere in Spain. And Cécile,
Canary Island.
you had, I don't know whether it was branzino, it was some white fish, and you just perfectly pulled up the bone, you know, the backbone with, and you held it up in front of your face with it was a perfect, you know, artistic photograph of your face with the fish bones perfectly balanced in front. Yeah. And in Nice, we had a really lovely meal too. I remember there was an older waitress, or was she the, you know, the lady of the restaurant or something? She came out and you were speaking French with her, and we were all laughing, and
Oh my God.
a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Ugh.
But you know, I don't know whether this pertains to what we're talking about, but I think after COVID, like you mentioned, being at home and how we can choose what we eat now. And I think it's going to be a little odd going back on the road in terms of even just food, because I feel like I've taken control of my life that way. And to go back out on the road, and then you're forced with, you know, you have to eat after the gig because there was no time before. And, you know, you start kind of doing these unhealthy things that you wouldn't want to be doing, and I haven't been doing in the last year, and it's gonna, I have to figure out how to renegotiate that whole relationship with eating on the road, because I don't want to lose
Move all the gigs to 5 p.m.
Yeah, that's it.
We'll be
Yeah.
in bed by 10.
That sounds nice, actually.
At the gym by 6.
Anat, I want to ask another musical question. I have a question for you, Anat. So I was listening to, I can't remember why I was listening to the artist record. Did we do something recently? Did we do a Zoom recently? No? No. I think, I forget what it was, but someone specifically asked me about my playing, how I played drums on Nocturno. And so I listened to the track to remember what I did, what happened on the recording. And man, it's a really beautiful rendition of that song. And am I remembering correctly? Was that the first song we played in the studio? Do you remember? By any chance? No?
It was, I think.
It was?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember it.
Okay, so
Was.
actually, Noriko, it was you that told me that was the first song we played, and that we were going to revisit it, but then we ended up not going back to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
We
it's-
took two takes, and yeah, okay, we'll come back. Yeah, Renee said, we'll come back and maybe later. And yeah, we never came back, but yeah, and I said, oh, I'm happy with it, and I think we never visited that.
Yeah.
Tune.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I remember.
Yeah,
No?
because there's
You
always
don't
this
remember?
thing in the studio. I mean, is it gonna be? It might not be. It might be different, but it might not be better. I mean, for sure it's gonna be different. And then you're stuck with more choices. Okay, or
that's
should I
true.
go with this track? And every day has a different vibe and a different tempo
Right.
and a different energy. But I remember when we were playing that, you know, I was trying to get the band, the beginning, the vibe, because I like when there's a lot of space. So I think we discussed, we went back and forth between like different ideas of grooves for you, Ali, for you know, going with the bass line, and it should be like, should you fill in all the really play some steady groove or kind of play something more spacious, use brushes, and we experimented when we rehearsed and when we were rehearsing. I think in the studio everybody's experimenting on their own, and at that point, we're no longer, it you write the song, and but once you're in the studio, once you counted the tune off, then this is it. It's no longer yours. It belongs to everybody. So I love what I love the energy and what happened with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I like that you mentioned the rehearsal part, because I think the only time we've really spent time rehearsing was when we were getting ready for the record, right? We had 3 days of rehearsals, and that's where I really felt the collaborative spirit, because it felt like a lab, like we were workshopping everybody's tunes, and kind of trying to figure out what would work best, and doing it with a lot of humility. We were all in there without egos, and finding what best served the music and what best served each composition. I know for me, you all, like especially Renee and Noriko, really helped me with my tune, like finding the right, because I didn't know what to play on the drums at all. And then you guys really helped me kind of find that and figure out what the right tempo was, how we should approach it. And I mean, that for me, that's probably my favorite part of having a band, is that rehearsal, pre-record collaboration part of it, especially when it's kind of intricately written music that needs to be workshopped. But Anat, what I was going to say about that piece is that, your solo on your piece is just breathtaking. And it's like, it's melodic, it's lyrical, it's playful, it's emotional. It's all of those things that for me, I love in an instrumental solo. And then I started thinking about all of your solos, and they're all like that. Like, no matter what, you always come in with like such great melody and repetition and dialogue, even if it's, dialogue within yourself and dialogue with the rhythm section. And I feel like you always honor the soloist that came before you. And I was wondering if you could kind of talk about that a little bit, if you want. I don't know. Sometimes it's weird to talk about yourself, but I really love that about you,
Wow. I don't know, the way you described it now kind of brings me back, like when I was just beginning to play, when I was a student, and there was this thing about like being a horn player, also having my two brothers that are horn players, and there's always like, okay, you play them, if let's say you play more like jazz that has like the head in the melody and then solos, so there's always, okay, the melody finished and somebody takes the first solo, and there's always that like, how do you take you make you physically, some people physically make a step forward and they start playing, and then each solo has a different energy. The second solo will never be the same, like it has a different kind of, I love that energy shift, and I got really aware of it from, I don't know if someone mentioned it when I was starting and also playing with my brothers, the possibility of how the second solo kind of becomes more, can open up, and the first solo can hit harder, and then there's like a certain thing about, it depends on the mood, and and when you're three horn players, like when I'm standing in a solo and you finish it, between Ingrid and Melissa, and then we finish a melody, somebody just, okay, they're in the mood to play, they're just gonna hold their note, and sometimes it's a little like, okay, who's gonna give give up first, like you never really know. But I love the to create that energy, like you really, it's not something that you do alone, you do it with the rhythm section, so if everybody's in the same state of mind, you can you shift the whole energy of the song based on, I love that possibility when you play jazz, that unknown, and the possibility of shifting the song, that the direction, that when there's a trust, like Renee said, there's trust, and then there's understanding, and then there's will, so it's like, okay, you want to go there, you're gonna go, but once in a while you want to go there, and sounds like, I want to go there. So it's like, it's always it's not always like, it's never one person's decision, but if you're stubborn enough, you can convince the rest to go with you. But it's a little thing, like any conversation, right? I mean, we're like, okay, sometimes people start talking at the same time, and then someone's like, oh, sorry, go ahead. No, you go ahead. No, you go ahead. Okay, and then the piano player stopped playing, stopped playing the solo because the home players were too polite.
But I mean, don't you think it's that sometimes it's that tension that creates a whole new world, right?
I
It's
love it.
incredible.
It's
Yeah.
great.
I mean,
That's the- yeah.
some of my favorite records have that all over it, you know. Kind of some of the records that got me into wanting to play this music, you know. It's amazing.
But there's so
Yeah,
many
and
different ways to approach, you know, when there's more than one soloist too. You know, just thinking about, you know, maybe as a student, traditionally you think, okay, you know, you tell a story and then you take it back down again, and then so that somebody else can grow and take a story their place, wherever they feel it to go. But sometimes, you know, some of the greatest musicians, I'm thinking of people like Train and Miles. I mean, they would take, like, for instance, Miles, he would, you know, somebody's playing and they're taking it to a high point, and instead of coming back down, he's just like a relay race, you know, where you hand off the baton and the next person shoots off. And that's kind of like, you could take a solo and start from the highest point and take it even further. You know, you don't always have to go back down again. There's so many different ways of approaching it, and that's what's beautiful about a band that communicates, because you know, we can do those things, and it doesn't have to be the same every night. You know, some nights it could be, well, every night, every time we play the piece, it could be completely different, and I love that. I think it should be like that, where it's not rote. You know, we don't know where we're going to go with it sometimes. I'm talking about energy levels, basically, within solos.
Yeah. And also, you know, just on that, like Cécile, I just remember when we were doing that first tour, you know, you would, from night to night, I felt like the actual meaning behind the lyric would shift depending on how you told the story while you were singing. I know that's something you do a lot. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think it's a lot of fun to play with that added dimension of the words. I mean, there's playing with obviously the melody and playing with like textures and sounds, but also with like meanings and intentions. And that's a lot of fun. It keeps it interesting for me, because I sometimes do get bored if I do it every time the same way. But it also means that sometimes a variation that I'll make in my interpretation is imperceptible, because it's really in the intention. So it almost sound like I'll sing it almost the same, but with a different intention behind it. Or like with a different character in mind, you know? And I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. And it's also me just trying stuff on too. And sometimes it doesn't work at all. But sometimes, you know, you stumble on something that's like, oh, I never thought that this song was actually about somebody who was just like crazed and like ravenous. I always just thought it was someone who was set, you know, just starting off with those kinds of prompts. It's fun.
yeah.
I love it about you, that when you can say, oh, and sometimes it totally doesn't work. And I think it's really important, because, you know, we experiment, and if you only went for what is familiar, we wouldn't grow, it wouldn't change, right? So it's kind of like, I'm okay with falling flat on my face and just like, all right, well, that was embarrassing. Cool, get up and keep going, and that's
exactly
part of you know, and you totally have that.
Well, I think Cécile was as much about, when she was on stage with us or off, was about as inspiring us to all not push ourselves to a new place, but to be aware of the expanding universe that's at our palette while being together, rather than just showing up and soloing, which I can't stand doing anyways. But really like incorporating the moment rather than putting on a show. Right?
Yeah.
Like I don't like
It's
putting on a show is a
interesting.
lot of pressure, but yeah, but running
Yeah.
with the vibe is like, woo, this is good.
And then also, I don't know if any of you feel this way, but I have started to understand that the show is also practicing. Like that's also sometimes the only time that I am practicing, especially if I'm on the road. And it's the only time that I get to really sing the song and like test it out and see like, well, what if I do this? You know, it's not going to be the same if I'm in the bathroom. So I just don't do it in the bathroom and I'll do it on stage. And you know, the worst case scenario is still that you just play the song. So I do really like trying to approach it as like, this is yet another practice session, but just with a little more pressure.
I love that.
I mean, I feel like, you know, also for this band in particular, I feel like once we're on stage and playing, we really do kind of, we're not, you know, we're bringing the audience in, but we really do lose ourselves in the music and the conversation that's happening, you know. And I will say, you know, we're about to move on to the Q&A part of this, but I will say just like I can't go through this thing without mentioning everybody's sense of rhythm and the like importance that every single person in this band puts towards rhythm. It's kind of like, for me as a drummer, I feel such a strong sense of rhythm and honoring rhythm in every single player. And I think that really lends itself to the vibe of this band. Like for me, you know, playing and interacting and having a conversation with Ingrid while she solos, and the way that, you know, Ingrid, the way that you leave space and the way that you also play with the rhythm is just, it's like the most exciting for me. And the same with Anat, you know, like just as far as horn players go, like this sense of rhythm and communication and kind of losing yourself in this moment and the tension. Also, like Anat, you were talking about this tension, the tension and release, right? And I don't know, like it's all this conversation is making me miss playing with you guys so hard. Like I'm just dying for that Ingrid Jensen thing that you do that makes me just go like, scream and then do something really loud on the drums, you know. I miss it. So we're about what'd you say?
It'll be back.
It'll be back, yeah.
I just want to echo something really quick because I see there's some young people listening, and if they're wondering what it's like to have that experience, because when I was younger, I was like, well, I got to practice the solo and make the solo happen. But it was actually the elements that go into creating together that I should have been practicing. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And I think we get carried away with like transcribing and something. It's like, okay, now I got it. I transcribed this and I played along. It's like, well, what did you get from it? You know, what compositionally and what message is in there that's going to feed you when it's your time to meet and create together. So just to dovetail on that one.
I mean, I think that's that is actually like, that's a question I've been thinking a lot about as an educator, because I feel, you know, especially right now, because our students, not many of the students can play with other people, and in general, jazz, you know, Black American music taught within an institution is questionable as is, I think, and you know, this is a music where, you know, you really, like what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say I'm having a difficult time with my young students, getting them to understand that they need to learn the language and the vocabulary of this music before they can actually express themselves, you know. And like, how do we do that when they're actually they're not able to do it on stage? Because like for me, I didn't learn this music in school. I learned this music playing gigs. So I don't understand this sense of not having the gigs and not having the experience to play. And a lot of my young students, they don't want to learn the history of the music. They want to just fast forward to the just contemporary. But I feel like a real struggle to get people to respect the history of this music and where it comes from, you know. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything about that. We do have to move on in a second, but
I think in terms of young people, they have to fall in love with the music. I mean, I
Mm.
also didn't go to school to learn jazz. I mean, I got introduced to it in high school through a very passionate band director. And I'm thankful that I had him to guide me in it. But, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the idea of improvisation and of communicating with other people and understanding that, there was so many possibilities within this music, that it wasn't like, uh, a piece of classical music where all the notes were, written out already. You had so much more freedom. And that's not to put down any type of classical music at all. I love all types of music. But all I'm saying is that I think for me, in terms of learning, it was all about listening to the records and discovering all the great artists, and you naturally learn about the history through listening and through falling in love with what you're listening to. And so the groove and the depth of the groove and learning how to swing, that's got to come from within your heart, and that's got to come from feeling the music in your soul. And I think the only way that can be done is by playing along with records and listening and just falling in love with the music. Because if that love isn't there, you're going to have a very, very difficult time learning how to play it.
That's true. I mean, yeah, that's number one. Totally. Okay, so we are about to start this Q&A. I have one more question. This kind of has to do with this program that Stacy and I are developing right now called Resilience Project, and it's really like it's a way to bring together community and for us to work together to make new art, but also to be inspired and kind of share our challenges from the last year and also what has inspired us. And it's something I'm very excited to be a part of because I really need community and I need to not be isolating, and I need a little push. So I was wondering if any of you all want to share how you've been coping in the last year, what has inspired you, if anything in particular, anything like that. And I'm sure you've been answering this many times, but if anybody has anything particular they'd like to share, that would be great.
Noriko.
Cécile.
Noriko-san.
So anything, it doesn't have to be music, but anything.
No, of course, anything. Yeah.
To me, actually, yeah, it's easy for me. I really feel connection to the nature, and I had a much more chance to visit different places and beaches and mountains and lakes and camping and playing tennis a lot until I got injured. So so I totally feel like that makes sure that I know I'm like a part of like a ground, like I don't know how to put in a word, but that's definitely always the inspiration I get, and I feel I relax and I take out all my stress hitting a ball, and also
Oh yeah.
no, just joking, but usually just feel the air from mountain, and just looking at the beautiful greens, and to really climb up the mountain by my foot, and that makes sure I feel like I earn the view from the top of the mountain, and this kind of stuff is definitely always my biggest influence.
Yeah.
Inspiration. Yeah.
Thank you.
And by the way, my injury, I just this week I started playing the tennis again at the wall. That's something.
Nice.
Today I went to practice the second time, so I'm on the way for the recovery. Thank you.
Yeah. Yay.
I love that what you said about earning the view at the top of the mountain. That's really beautiful. That's really important. I think that's great to apply to everything, to life.
Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah, thank you, Cécile.
Yeah.
I
okay.
have one person that has fully inspired me and continues to inspire me a lot. Her name is Robin O'Neill. She's a visual artist, and she just her trajectory as an artist and how she's first of all, her work ethic. She makes these large scale drawings with mechanical pencil, and sometimes the drawings take her 3 years with just like an office mechanical pencil, enormous. And she is extremely virtuosic as an artist and as someone who draws, but she's been kind of destroying her own work. She's been boiling pieces of paper. She's been ripping them up, adding them to, she's been using her old drawings in the new drawings in a new way, and like being super rough with her own work in a way that I find extremely exciting and inspiring. And I wonder, what would it look like to take an old piece of music that I've made or an old song, and then somehow like throw it in some boiling water, destroy it, mend it, like really, I don't know. She's got me thinking about different processes in terms of like creating something, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
What is your latest thing you're working on? Are you doing textile? What is your latest format?
Textile. I'm making a drawing.
Preview.
I'm making a drawing.
Oh, nice.
On an on a vintage doily.
Nice.
Ooh.
Nice.
Oh, that's such a great idea.
Well, because you know what I thought of, and I think this has to do a lot also with music and things that I like about music, is that idea that we collaborate with our ancestors and that we're in this call and isn't this called call and response?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's perfect. So the idea of call and response and like that dialogue with the people that come before us and the people that come after us, and the idea of like layering over that, over whatever foundations we have from the past is so interesting to me. So I decided to get like these, you know, this is made by someone, and I don't know who, because textile is classically this sort of anonymous art form. But I thought it would be so fun to kind of collaborate with whoever it was that made that beautiful lace, whichever woman made it. And so, yeah, that idea of collaboration, not only with peers, but also with people in the past, is something that really excites me. And hopefully people in the future, like anyone watching this in 2060, you know, down to collaborate. Use Artemis, sample it, put whatever weird trap type beats you have. Yeah, sample Artemis
and glue them onto something.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to the question part of this, and I will say that I'll just say one of my huge inspirations this year has been the fact that I've kind of become a human couch to my children, which has been amazing. It's gotten to the point where I just like assume the position, and then both my children climb on top of me and watch a movie, and I'm smushed for the next 2 hours, and I love it. That's my inspiration. Okay. Okay. Question 1, Eva has a question for us. She is wondering, what do you hope young girls will take away when they see you all perform together, when they see an incredible group of powerful women having fun and communicating that joy through the power of music? Anybody want to jump on that?
I think
Eva. Oh, I was gonna say what you're saying is that Eva answered her own question, right?
What do you mean? Can you?
Well, that to see women, you know, powerful women and being joyful and creating joy, that it will inspire other young women and young men to feel the possibility of what music can bring to the world, and how important making art is for just for humanity,
Mm,
and especially
definitely.
in the world that we're in right now. I mean, that's what I'm feeling actually very excited about. Just I'm wondering if when we come out of this whole pandemic that we'll be in like the roaring 20s, so to speak.
Mm,
100 years later, that people will be so excited to be back out there and just taking part in all forms of art, and being together again, that there'll just be this explosion of creativity. I think that's happening anyway, like in our own little ways, each of us. But I think it's gonna really rock the world when this is over and we can all, get out there and spread the joy some more.
yeah. You know that the Eva's question reminds me of this moment after our Carnegie Hall concert, where my friend Jessica Lurie, great composer and saxophonist, she texted me from a subway car, and she said, she's like, I was just at your show, amazing, and it's so incredible because the subway car is filled with like high school girls who were all at your show, and they're like they're looking through the playbill and talking about each musician and their favorite moments from the concert. And she was like, this is the most incredible moment to see all these young girls like
I love this
rapping.
story. Why did you hold on to this? You've been holding out.
I've been holding out. Yeah, they were like psyched, like they just came from like a basketball game or something. They were just like, that was amazing. And Cecile and Anat and Noriko. Yeah.
Well, I was just
cool.
going to say that my daughter and my niece were at that concert, and there's a picture of them in the in the box looking in the stage behind us. And I'd look at them and I'm like, those two don't even know that they're supposed to say that was amazing. That was women. They don't even, that's not even why they would mention, oh, wow, it's cool. That was an all woman group. They're just like, there's Cecile and Noriko and Renee and Mom and Anat and that's the band.
Yeah,
I don't
totally.
That's to me was so exciting.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, it's gonna take away some of the dust off what people view jazz to be, which is just like this very kind of like old, sort of dusty thing that has no life. Like, and usually if you just see dudes all the time, only dudes, it's just like it feels, especially now, it's just starting to feel a little bit dusty. No, I love men. Disclaimer, I love men. But, it's about time. It just, it freshens it a little bit. To just have, like, does that, I don't know if that's
dusty. I like dusty.
If that's inappropriate, but
there's a lot of dusting to be done in this country, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, question 2. Veronica in Milwaukee, Wisconsin wants to know, how did we come together with the end result being a performing group of all women? Was it a conscious effort or was it organic? Renee, you want to get on that?
Yeah, I'll take that one on. So back in 2016, there was a European promoter who invited me to help him put together a group of all women to celebrate International Women's Day in Paris. And so I assembled musicians I loved and knew, and we did a couple of concerts, and it was almost the same band. But we had such a good time playing together that we thought, oh, let's do some more. And so consequently, the next year, I think it was the next year, right? 2017, we did a summer tour, and that's when Allison and Noriko joined the band. And we played 14 different cities. We still weren't Artemis then. We were, at that moment, I think we were billed as Woman to Woman. Was that right? And then it was really kind of after that tour that we decided, wow, we really have something special here, and we love playing together, and we're just having a great time, and why not just make this a thing? Like, we can continue playing together, and we're all very busy. All of us have careers as leaders and educators, and we're very busy lives, but maybe this can be a special project that a few times a year we can get together and we can play and record together and continue developing the nucleus. And so that's when Ingrid came up with the name Artemis, and we branded it, and here we are. So it didn't start organically, really, but then it became an organic, organically growing vegetable.
Vegetable.
Fruit. What kind of vegetable?
A gourd. A girl. No, anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, that was a great explanation. Thank you. Okay, we have a question. Say that again.
No, I just said it in a nutshell.
Okay, question 3. This is Roxy from the Philippines, asks, what can you say to the women in jazz who are still within cultures of machismo? She says that, quote, while we've not been on the bandstand for a while, I'm not looking forward to being mansplained by my fellow male bandmates once we are able to. Thoughts? Good question.
Cecile's cracking up.
I love her. I go Roxy.
Yeah, totally.
What
We need to answer this?
Yeah.
Go.
Oh, just
Mama
wondering,
Renee, go.
what can you say what the actual question is? Like what?
So she's saying, no mansplaining. Hi, Joyce. I saw Joyce there. No mansplaining. Like, she says, what can you say to women in jazz who are still within the culture of machismo? And then she says, while we've not been on the bandstand for a while because of COVID, she's not looking forward to being mansplained by fellow male bandmates once we are able to. I will say one thing. If you are able to have a sense of humor and see everybody as a human being, and that everybody is actually just wants to be loved. I mean, this is kind of like going into another place, but the mansplaining, I think, as long as we're in this patriarchal society, it's going to exist, but you can choose, for me at least, I can choose to let it get to me or not. And for me, sometimes my coping mechanism is to have a sense of humor around it. It happened today, actually. It was pretty funny. This morning, 10 a.m., I go into the studio to make this duo recording, and I come in, and there's an intern. The head engineer's known me for years. We have a laugh. We're like having a good time. Then his intern, who must have been maybe half my age, and obviously doesn't have a lot of experience. He came in to the studio, and he was like, "Would you like me to help you set up the drums? Like, do you have any questions?" And I, instead of like taking that personally, I just kind of laughed internally. I was like, "No, it's cool. Thank you. I got it." And then he asked, then he said, his next question was, he's like, "Well, how long have you been playing drums?" And I said, "Oh, 38 years, a very long time." And then I realized, then he was like, "Oh, can I get you a coffee?" And then he comes back, and in that moment, he just kind of stood there with the coffee looking at me. And I was like, "Can I help you?" And he was like, I don't know where to put the coffee. And then in that moment, I kind of realized that he's just super green, young intern, and just didn't know how to navigate talking to me or anything. And it was probably way before he would normally be awake anyway, and the whole thing became very funny to me. And then he was like, "I'm just going to put your coffee on this Manhasset music stand." And I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea. The whole thing would have fallen over. It was just instead of me kind of judging him for thinking that I don't know how to set up drums, I actually realized he just doesn't know what he's doing yet. And the poor guy is probably nervous, and he just wants me to kind of support him in that moment. So in that moment, I was able to have a sense of humor and make a couple jokes with him. and then it didn't get to me. So I do find that can help, but I also know that there can be bullying and a lot of mansplaining. And, for me, I just try to play with people that I really can be myself with and love, and that I trust. So, but that's not always easy when you're a young musician and you're coming into it. So anybody else have anything they want to
add to that? Is if
I
you're
love that. I love the idea of having a sense of humor. I mean, I think obviously it really depends on the situation. Some people are in way worse situations than others when it comes to this. I will say, I mean, as annoying as mansplaining is, it's one of the more benign ways in which people are. I don't even, it's not. All I'll say is maybe this is me perpetuating a horrible situation, which I'm not hip, but I'll say it's not. If mansplaining is the worst thing that's happening, then you can basically get away with just treating it with a sense of humor and not focusing on it so much. If it's worse than mansplaining, if there's like actual, like, I don't know, abuse, attacks, that's a whole different situation, which obviously sense of humor can't help. But mansplaining is, you have to relativize. And I think people mansplain or let's just say are condescending to a lot of young musicians too. That's also part of the process. But yeah, I would agree with you at the idea of just, if you can, laugh it off, don't focus on it too much, and just keep working, go practice,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't focus.
Yeah.
I would say the best antidote to any of that is just your own excellence.
Exactly.
Just combat that with your own, high level of playing. That's where you have to be. Strive for excellence.
straight ahead, strive for
Exactly.
tone?
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Renee. Now I have 2 quotes from you from this evening that are going on my big bulletin board at school.
Oh.
Very good.
Okay, we have one last question. Stephen, this is interesting. Stephen says that in architectural design, a question always comes up internally about when the design is complete, a point at which doing more will reduce the result. Is there a parallel in jazz improvisation?
That sounds so interesting, but I didn't understand the question. Could you explain me somewhat?
Noriko, here's my answer.
I would say sometimes it would be like almost like that extra chorus.
The
That
extra
one
chorus.
extra chorus can
Don't ever
just
play that extra
completely.
chorus.
I love that, Anna. Yes.
When you
Agreed.
think one more course to redeem yourself, it never works out that way.
When you should have ended after the first.
Yeah. But maybe the better correlation is a jazz composition, not so much improvisation, but a composition. And yes, I think there could be an argument that it would be, there's a corollary there. Of course, it's taste, right? It's your own taste and what you like, what you don't like, and whether you feel yourself artistically that it's complete.
Noriko, do you understand the question now? No.
No, can you tell me?
So Stephen is I think he's an architect, and he is saying within the architectural world and architectural design, a question comes up amongst architects of like, when is a project complete? Like at what point are you reducing the result if you keep going on? So he was asking if there was a correlation between jazz improvisation or composition.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Composition, definitely. Because in a great composition, you can use parts of what you've written to create more form. if it's a strong composition, if the bones are good. I like to say that because we have a house that was a total disaster, but the bones were good. So we were able to remodel and do things, but it's not finished, but we can live in it. And it's functional and it keeps evolving. And every time we change a room, it's a new experience, or finish a room, it's a new experience, which I think is very similar to composing sometimes, and also playing together. We can create something out of nothing. It can be, people will ask us after a concert, wow, was all that written out? Like 60% of it, even the orchestration of the horns, we were making up in response to something that happened in someone's solo or in the moment, or that was suggested ever so, empathically. Is that the word? Empathically.
I would say, I'm just thinking of Anat's song, how you guys said that you did 2 takes and you said you were going to go back and then you didn't go back. And to me, that's like a perfect example of like, sometimes in a recording situation, you're trying to get it better. You do 3, 4, 5, 6 takes, and it's just not, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And actually you were there on the second take. And also when it comes to mixing and mastering an album, and oh, let's tweak this, let's change, like after a while there's a point where you can't even hear it anymore. So those are moments I would say that make me think of that. Or rehearsals, like a rehearsal where you're like, we've been going on and on over this song for like 5 hours, we're not getting it. Like sometimes you need to either stop or take a break, take like a couple days break. Those are examples, I think, of that type of
Yeah.
And what
doing
about
too much.
when you're making a piece of artwork, the visual art? I mean, do you feel that there's a moment where you might be going overboard, or do you feel like when do you know it's complete?
I think my tendency is actually to not do enough. So to stop before it's actually done. But it has happened. The stuff that I make takes so long to make that that it's more a question of like, keep going. You're, 1 more month. But it's definitely intuitive, and it's also a learning process where I'll realize after, I'll look at it and I'll say, take that out. That was too much. And sometimes you can't take it out. Sometimes you got to live with it or patch it up or paint over it or whatever it is,
Right.
And then sometimes you have to just throw the whole thing away.
In boiling water.
In boiling water, exactly.
It's the same with cooking, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and for like salt, and what
God.
my range of salt might be different than your range of salt.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that last, were you tasting the soup and you're like, I could use a little more, and then that last little more just screwed the whole thing up. Oh.
Tried too hard to make it tasty. Should have left it alone and let it sit overnight.
Yeah.
I find, as a composer, I find that this kind of topic, and I think this is actually my brother-in-law that asked this, because I just saw that my sister's on here too, I think, and they're both architects. I think he asked the question, which is awesome. Hi guys. As a composer, for me, it's like, if I haven't left any question marks in the music, like if it's too explained to the listener, if there's nowhere space in there for the listener to use their imagination and make up their own parts, then I've overdone it. Like that's something I think about a lot as a composer. Wow. Yeah, like, wow, am I composer splaining too much, Like I just wanted to, that's what I think about.
Oh, I love that. Leave a question mark, and that's gonna stay with me.
Awesome. Okay, we have come to the end, you guys. I want to thank each of you so much for taking the time to do this. you all mean so much to me, and Living Jazz means so much to me. And I know that you guys are all super busy and on Zoom all the time, so I really appreciate it. Uh, um, does anybody else have any last words they want to say before we hand it back to Stacy?
Go, Allie.
Miss you all. Miss you all.
Yeah.
Miss you all, yeah.
You on
You guys are
stage.
amazing.
Yeah, so
All of you
inspiring
amazing.
and can't wait to
Yeah.
Yeah.
play.
Ditto.
Um,
For more of those after gig dinners and hangs and laughs and
I know, food. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. And I love you all. We're going to hand it back to another person that I love dearly. Please welcome back Stacy Hoffman, the executive director.
Thank you. Well, okay, here's what I was thinking about predominantly while I was listening to this. One, I want to be in your band. I want to go on the road with you guys. Of course, I can't play an instrument, but oh well. But the other thing is that every time we do one of these events, what I realize is by getting to know each of you, listening to you, watching you interact, understanding a little bit more about your dynamic, I can't wait to hear your band again because I'll listen differently and it will mean more to me. I'll feel a more personal connection. And I think that's one of the beauties of these this call and response series that we've been doing, because having some kind of, even if it's not personal, meaning I'm talking to one of you personally, but it feels personal here listening to this. So I really want to thank each of you again, and volunteering your time to give of yourself for Living Jazz. It's really meant a lot to me and to us. So thank you so much.